Dear listeners, in my last video, I have spoken about Silicea in general. But in today's talk, I'm going to talk about specifically Silicea children's. Silicea is the remedy which is very commonly used in practice in children-related issues. Silicea kids are mostly timid or shy when they first meet someone, but once they know you, then they are okay. Silicea children are usually very refined and well behaved, like carcinosin and Staphylococcus. जब वो प्रैक्टिस में आते हैं बड़े खामोशी से आराम से एक साइड पे बैठते हैं. इन प्रैक्टिस दे यूजुअली डू नॉट टॉक or they answer in yes or no only. That's why Silicea is mentioned under talks monosyllabus. Here again, they have this image or impression issue, which I have talked about in my last video in more details. As I said in my last video, sometimes Silicea children are a victim of family expectations. In the case of Silicea children, they usually decide at a very early age what profession they want to adopt, which is mostly a profession of their own father or uncle. Moreover, Silicea is also a remedy for those children who are forced to choose their parents' profession. And because of this pressure, they develop this mental fatigue or other kinds of issues in their life. Keep in mind, Illumina is also a great remedy for those kids who are forced to choose against their will. But in Illumina, you will see very prominent confusion issues, which is much less in Silicea. In Silicea, you will see lack of confidence and different kinds of anxieties and fear, especially its famous fear of exams and appearing in front of public. Oh yes, Silicea is also for those kids who bites their own nails when they are nervous. There are more other remedies which have this biting nails when they are nervous, but Silicea is one of the very prominent remedy among them. Silicea is also a great remedy for students, especially for those kids who are drained or tired easily after a little mental or physical activity, like we see in picric acid or califos. These children usually complain that their chronic headache get worse after school or after studies. Now, that was one side of the Silicea, but the other side of Silicea children are very different. They are stubborn. Silicea has this two sides. One side is mild, confused, lack of structure, and timidity. The other side is hard and stubborn, sticking to the rules and customs. These two sides we can also see in Silicea pathologies. On one side, Silicea is used in stony hardness of glands, exostosis, styes, and other bones or skin-related issues. And the other side is mild, like sensitivity to cold, and they catch a cold easily, and they are sensitive to slightest touch. Even they're tickled easily, and poor nutrition. As I said, they are stubborn children, but it doesn't mean that you don't see the other polarity in Silicea. Silicea children are also very intelligent and gifted children. They are very good in studies, and you can see them that they achieve very high marks in their educational career, and they are very high achievers as well. But of course, you also find the other polarity of Silicea, that they are very dull, they cannot read, they cannot understand simple mathematics. Silicea is also mentioned for those kids who have this poor appetite or they are weak due to malnutrition. I have found these kids have aversion to food. Even though they do not tolerate the sight or smell of the food, and as a physician, you often confuse it with the colchicum, which has this also vomiting at the sight or smell of the food. But instead of colchicum, they need Silicea, because Silicea also have this intolerance to the smell of the food, and this aversion to the food. And I have also seen Silicea children's only like to eat one kind of food or only one specific kind of clothes. Let's say if they eat white bread, then they only like to eat white bread. And if you give them a brown bread, then they just don't want to eat it. Like जली हुई रोटी, like उन बच्चों को अगर आप जली हुई रोटी दे दें, थोड़ी सी भी जली हो, तो उसको नहीं खाएंगे. वो कहेंगे ये जली हुई है, ये खराब है, because it's different than the usual bread which they get it. इसी तरह क्लोथिंग, वो कहते हैं वो हमें उसी तरह के कपड़े चाहिए जैसे हम यूजुअली पहनते हैं. One thing worth mentioning here is mostly Silicea children like cold things like ice cream, icy water, although their condition generally aggravates from cold. But when it comes to food, they like eating cold food. They have this aversion to the cooked and warm food or meat like we see in the pulsatilla or phosphorus. In Silicea children, you can also find this extreme desire to indigestible things like chalk and sands, which you can also find in alumina and calcareous carb. छोटी उम्र में बच्चे दीवार को चाट रहे होते हैं, मिट्टी खा रहे होते हैं. They have this desire to eat this undigestible things. So think of these remedies like alumina, Silicea, calcareous carb in those cases. Silicea is most famous in its stubborn constipation symptoms, and of course it's used during the dentation period and skin related issues. But few homeopaths know that Silicea is also used in painless diarrhea in emaciated children, as we see in remedy China or Podophyllum or Natromure as well. In cases of chronic painless diarrheas, you can also think of Silicea as well. Now about his stubbornness. As I said, these kids are stubborn in their life approach. Like if they decide one thing, then for them it's very hard to change their mind or routine. This we can also see in adults, especially those who follow a rigid routine, like people from the armed forces who are rigid in specific patterns in their life. If they make their mind, then they just follow that routine or rituals. Here the bottom line is the same. Any change made in their identity will be unacceptable. There is only one way to keep its identity: hold on to it rigidly. For them, rules and boundaries cannot be flexible or changed. This is all about Silicea. See you next time with another video. Bye.